Hello and welcome everyone to a special LEGO Technic AMA session here on Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Aurelian, who is one of the designers who helped design the new LEGO Technic Ferrari set that LEGO has just been releasing. So it's very great to chat with you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Joshua. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of that, and inviting me to the event. Yeah, nice to see you.
Well,
Nice to meet you.
it's great to chat with you. So why don't you start off, before we dive into the model itself, why don't you start off by kind of introducing yourself a little bit, what you do at LEGO, and talking about what you did on the design, and then kind of the whole team that worked on this.
Sure, yes. So as you say, my name is Aurélien Roufiange. I'm senior designer in LEGO Technic. I've been working in the LEGO group for a bit more than 10 years now, designing LEGO sets, always in LEGO Technic. And my role is mainly to design the next build, the next assortment model for the assortment in the following years. But also, since 2 years now, I'm helping out with the communication between the partnerships we have in the team. So all the brands that connect to us, like Volvo, or for instance, Ferrari, McLaren, and all of that. So I'm helping out the designer who will be designing the set to have the right information, all the assets that he needs to create the best representation of the model itself. So on the Ferrari F488, it was Lars Kroh, a designer who was building the set, and you can actually see some of the pictures and of behind the scenes and how he designed the sets, and inside the BI, inside the booklet that is in the box. And then you can learn a bit more, I think, on the process and to see more who works on the SKU. And on my side, it was mainly to make sure that we have the right communication and driving all of that between LEGO and Ferrari, and to have the most authentic representation of their car made into a LEGO Technic version at the end, and to make sure that Lars was doing the best he could with all the information we could share between each other.
So that's interesting then. So you kind of had hands in both the communication with Ferrari, and then also looking over the design of the model as well. So kind of you had insight into sort of the whole process that went into this design.
Yeah, it's a lot of communication going on, like a ping pong between them and us. So I think it took approximately 5 to 6 months to finalize the set for Lars, and then every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we had a call. Before we could try also to travel, and we could go there and then meet the team and then see the car in real, but it was a bit difficult lately with the situation. So it was mainly by Skype call or team calls. We were doing sharing images, so taking a lot of pictures of the model we have here and then sending it to them, and then they will give us a lot of feedback, and then Lars and the rest of the team could design the best way, either by creating new parts if it wasn't a need, or making sure the shape were the most accurate to the real car. And that, yeah.
Right, that makes sense. And so I have some questions I want to dive into related to your work with
Yeah,
Ferrari and the model itself. And I also, before we do that real quick, want to give a shout out to all of our fans and everyone watching who posted questions online. We put out a couple different places asking for questions and got some good stuff from fans. So big thanks to everyone who took the time to do that. And for everyone watching live right now, feel free to put a question in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to that and get all of your questions answered before the stream ends. But I do want to have you start off by giving us a quick explanation of the real car that this set is based on. So for maybe people who aren't familiar with this exact model from Ferrari, tell us a little bit about what this car is.
Yeah, it's a car that they use for racing mainly. So it's like based on the original car, but GTE version. So it's more like you can see on the screen. Yeah, I have it here. But so racing version of it. This particular car is the one that we choose to do. The 51 number you can see on the side and on the front hood is that edition that win the Le Mans race in 2019. I'm correct. And that's also why we felt it was quite cool to create that one in a LEGO Technic format. This is a special edition, so it's lighter, it's faster. It's more it's a better performing car, I think, for the race. But overall, the look of it, if you remove all the sponsors, is closely based to the original 488, and of course with a spoiler and all that. But yeah, we didn't want it to go for the classic original car version, but more like racing and more speed and a bit cooler with all the sponsors and those colors that we have. That actually was quite challenging to represent here on the LEGO Technic version, because there's so many sponsors and so many decals to apply, and also the color, the stripes that you have on the car. But we felt it was actually a good challenge to do and to drive that project. And this is basically that's why we thought that would be the right candidate.
Yeah, well, that's a good transition to something I wanted to ask you about that I've seen a lot of fans ask as well, is about the stickers. I know this set comes with a lot of stickers in it. So if you can maybe explain kind of the decision to go with so many stickers versus printed parts, and just kind of the way that you approach that with designs in general when you're thinking about a set.
Yeah, it will depend if there's somewhere we can put stickers, and there's some places we can't because it's the wrong curve. So usually it will be on wheel arches or in some other places, like you can see the headlamps. It's decorated because it's also not possible to have a sticker that will be recreating that particular shape and transparency and the shape of the element. Also, we could not apply a sticker. There's two curves at least, so that's not no go for us to do, because after a certain time the sticker will peel itself and it will not stay on the element as it should. So we avoid that. But there's a lot of stickers also to recreate that specific livery of the car from the 2019 edition that was winning the Le Mans race. Yeah, challenge, we're trying as much as we can to use the physical brick, the elements. Like with the color we used, no, we didn't need to use stickers, but on the side we had to. And also the reason why we don't decorate all the parts is it would raise a lot the price of the model, and it's technically not doable on that size SKU size model. It's something that is done, like you could see on the Lamborghini. It was done on the Ultimate series, where there's a bit more budget we can play with to create the model and also bring more detail and authenticity. But for this one, we felt it was really cool to still have that livery. But you can also, of course, remove the stickers if you don't want to have them, and then you have a complete car only red, and that's also a possibility then for you to do, which is quite cool. And if it's decorated, then you cannot really have the option. But definitely, that was a choice for the size of the SKU, and to make sure we have the right element and the right shape as well implemented, and as many functions as we could. Because if you spend your budget on the model in other places, then you don't have the same money left, I think, for you to create the right shape or the right functions. It's a balance as well, again, depending on the size of the model and the complexity, I would say. Yeah. And,
right. I think a lot of fans out there aren't aware of that kind of balance that you always have to do as a LEGO designer, of all the different things that go into designing a kit. And then, like you said, the budget and working with, if we use money for this part of the kit, well, then we can't do this other thing that we wanted to do with it. So like you said, I think there's a lot of that balance there. And then you also, with printed parts, lose that flexibility of, you could just leave some of the stickers off and then use those parts for other things. But if it's printed on there, then it's got those logos or, the sponsors on there permanently.
And definitely, then you cannot get rid of it if you want to build something else with the elements. Because also what is true to us and important is that we're trying to show that what we're doing is something based with existing elements most of the time. there's very few new parts, and we just want to show that you can build anything you want with the Lego element, and therefore, the way you use the element, the bricks, the way you put them together, that you can recreate the Ferrari F488, and you can always take it apart and build something else with it, whatever you want. The only limitation will be your imagination and whatever you want to do. So basically, this is also a bit nicer when it's not only decorated, I think, in that case as well. Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. So I wanted to go back then to
Could be.
your work with Ferrari on this. So when you're as a Lego designer, working with a company like Ferrari to design one of their vehicles, what is that process like? Do they have a lot of input in the design, or do they basically just sign off and say you guys can design this and then leave you to do your job? What is that relationship typically like?
Yeah, there's a lot of communication going on. It's a very, very passionate partner, and they really like to be involved constantly with us to make sure that we have the right shape, the right representation. So there was, like I said before, a lot of calls, but also a lot of emails that we send, a lot of pictures and video and movies, so anything we could for them to be able to see how it looks and to be able to share with us as many feedback. And this is important for us to get as many feedback always during the process, so we get at the end the best outcome, the best representation of the car. There was always like some, for example, you will send side pictures and they will draw lines on your model, or they will if they could access and be here with the physical model, they will help you trying to shape it and maybe use tape or something on the model directly. But basically, this is like close to 6 months of development and probably 30 to 40, I don't know. It was quite a lot of different variation of the model until you reach the sweet spot where we both like the model, and they also can approve it, and we can also tell this is a true LEGO Technic model. This is it really communicates our DNA, but also you can tell this is that car from Ferrari. But they were very particular on every detail. Everything was quite challenging because it's quite organic. The car, there's a lot of shapes, there's a lot of curves, and with the element that we have, it's not always obvious, and we try our best to really create the shapes, but this is also why it's important that we have their feedback, because sometimes we will think it's the right shape, the right place for that element, but they will comment on something else, like, no, that curve is more important. It's better you hit that line there than this or this, and then we're okay. Then we know where to go and prioritize and end up with the best representation. And actually, every time there's feedback like that, and we implement it in a model that actually shows us that it was the right thing to do, and it really looks good and makes sense and works. So that's basically part of the process we have between the partnership to create the most accurate looking model. And there's obviously sometimes some shortcuts, there's things that we cannot recreate with the Lego elements. Even with, sometimes we use system bricks to recreate some small detail, like maybe you have that tile in the front here that is a system element, or the headlamps. And then when there's everything we could do with this combination, the balance between using a bit of system and the technical platform is then using stickers or decorations, and for example, the lamps on the back, things like this, Then we hit our limitation, because it's not going to be a die cast with the exact same shape. It's going to be a representation of the real car in a LEGO Technic format, of course.
Right. So it's great to hear that, yeah, you can work so closely with Ferrari and they can kind of give input on the model as it goes along. But you also touched a couple times there on something that I think is really important to understand, and that's just how difficult it is to capture something like the curves and shape of a vehicle with Lego. And I think it's hard for a lot of fans out there to appreciate this, whether it's fan mock builders doing it or official Lego designers doing it as official kits. This is very, very difficult to achieve. So talk about how you approach a design like this. Is it very tempting? I would imagine it's tempting to want to just get, new pieces made and be like, oh, why don't we just, get this exact shape molded in a new piece so I don't have to figure out how to make it work with the existing pieces. How do you approach that challenge?
Yeah, exactly. This is actually a very good challenge, and when you have the IP product, of course, on top that you need to match the real car, that's where it becomes a bit more putting you outside of the comfort zone, and we're trying to not create new elements, but of course there will be sometimes a need, like there was some of the wheel arches that sometimes we created for the Lamborghini, for example. We created that front panel that was also helping to define the shapes, and this is the thing also, like we can reuse them in another way, and that creates a different car, different vehicle. In that case, I think I must say Lars has done a fantastic work on that one, recreating the perfect shapes of the car, and you can really tell this is that one, nothing else. But this is, I would say, build as much as you can. This is gonna be the same process for all the Lego model you will create anyway, and this is build as much as you can. Try to hit the shape and then send it to the partner, get their feedback, try to implement the feedback in the next build. And this is a process that goes like that for a couple of months, and until you are satisfied with the shape and they will approve and you think you have tried all options that could be, and then that hits the right shape. You will then, if there's maybe sometimes no other way than creating an element, then we have to decide what element it should be, because we don't want to create a specific part just for that model. We want the element to be able to be used again in the future, or the same year in different model. So then we all brainstorm on those shapes, and then we have the element designer, like I think Daniel Sridason, who was helping creating the model, the shapes for the new elements, and Marcus as well. And we have then the rest of the team that give input. We are giving input to our element designers to make sure that we have the right shape, and then we all try to build with these elements internally. We have a different model that we are working on, but also we will try on side project to see if this would work for a future model, maybe that we could use in the year after, just to make sure that we don't just create that element for that model, but we have something that will be used again. And it's always nice when you can find that particular new shape that really help your creation and also satisfies the partner, but also everyone can use, and then that's the best new element you could create. Sometimes it's a bit more specific, and then we have different categories of element that will fall in 3 different categories, but our priority is to make something that is used again and again. And this is what makes Lego, I think, as well. Yeah. But like I said, build, and then implement all the feedback, as many feedback as you can from what the partner will send you. Keep the DNA of Lego Technic in your model as well. But also, so like I said, as many functions as well as you can implement first, and then shaping around, and this will create the true Technic experience.
Right. And I think that's a really important point. It goes back to that balance that you were talking about earlier, where when you're thinking about, creating a new part, it can't be something that would kind of only work in this one kit. It needs to be something that, like you said, you can put it into other kits later on, and it has other uses. So again, there's always these other things you have to consider outside of just the one project that you're working on.
Exactly. Yeah. And for us, it's a bit specific because we are using a different element platform than most of the other franchise in Lego. The system, Duplo system, and Technic. So yeah, we have not so many other projects that we could try to sell the element or the ID to, to like, do you like that shape? Should we do more of these shapes? This is mainly us in Lego Technic that we are driving our novelty elements, and we're always trying also. I know it's not the same platform, but we will try to make sure that it's still that other project could use, or if it's a rim, if it's a wheel or tires, or wheel arches. Of course, it's a bit tricky, but sometimes it's funny that you will see another project who's using some of your elements, LEGO Technic shape element that you've created for that year product, and then it's used in a way you would not think of that could be used for that. So that's quite fun that you see that, or even other projects like in system will be able to use it as well. That's even better. But yeah, that's also a limitation we have, and we don't create too many new parts. But yeah, and when we create a part, it's also to make sure we will bring something that is new to the assortment, and that will bring either a new function that we couldn't do before, or in that case, maybe some new shapes that really help boost the authenticity of the model. And it's, yeah, like again, like before you said, like the right balance in taking those decisions. Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. And you mentioned earlier also that there are a few system parts in this kit, but it's obviously predominantly a Technic kit. So when LEGO is looking to design a car like this, how do you decide between going with a system design or a Technic design? What is that discussion like internally as you're looking at the car?
Good question. I think for us, it's obviously because we are separated in the organization in different projects, different teams. So you have, like, for example, in car, maybe the speed champion or creator will also create a specific car representation. And we are LEGO Technic. So in our team, we will mainly use the Technic platform, and doesn't come to us. It's more like what is right for us in the next assortment, what will make a very cool assortment, and what's going to be new and fresh that we can bring to have the right configuration of different kits. And before the Ferrari, we released the Porsche 911 RSR. It was also Lars who developed it, and we felt that would be cool to continue in that lineup, and we just look at what would be the right candidate to follow that. And thinking of Ferrari as a partner was, it's one of the most popular company in the world, and in the car industry, everybody knows Ferrari, and we felt like, okay, we should maybe go full speed in that direction, and bring one of the first LEGO Technic Ferrari products to the assortment, and that was it. Yeah, but it's not something that we will maybe see should it be system or Technic, because for us it will always start as a Technic platform, and system will goes in play, as I say, just as to capture the last detail we couldn't create with the Technic platform. Yeah.
Gotcha. So then once you've gotten the decision down to make it Technic, how do you then balance out doing form versus function? And were there any functions that you tried to include with this car that you couldn't, or how do you decide that throughout the design process?
Yeah, basically when we start a project like that, we will try to we just study the real deal, the real car, and see what function is inside, and what we could then translate with the element that we have into then the LEGO Technic format. So usually, of course, on the car it will be steering, the 4 wheels, then the suspension, the engine, a gearbox, possibly a gearbox, and differentials. So as many realistic functions that exist on the real car, that we will try to translate them into a Technic format. But then, of course, depending on the size of the model, there will be maybe not enough room to implement all of those functions. So we will always try to capture the most iconic of the vehicle, the most iconic functions. Also, making sure that we have enough functions, but also they are easy to build, depending on the size of the model and the age of the product we are offering. It's important that it's not too complex for the age mark we have on the box. We are delivering different play and build experience, and that's because there's a different level of difficulties you can reach, and we will have like kids with less experience that they don't want to go to already on a bigger model. So we need to slowly, drive them maybe in that way, in the creating a smaller SKU first, which is like this one, or maybe even smaller. There's different product in the assortment in LEGO Technic that starts from like something that is with maybe 200, 100 and 200 parts up to maybe 4,000 elements. And that's also driving the complexity and then how much function then there will be in there. To this one, that was obvious that we should have the V8 engine that spins the differential connected to the rear axle that will drive the pistons when you push the car, the steering wheel, opening of the doors, and more authentic way of steering, because we will sometimes normally have the steering on the top, on the roof with a gear or somewhere on the back. But we felt for this one, because it's with the partnership, I think it makes more sense that we have it more authentic, and then we have the steering wheel here. Sorry, that will then.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Actually functions and then steers the wheels, and of course suspension, and then I think that's all. Yeah, steering, driving, engine, and suspension. Yeah.
So you were just trying to capture, kind of the main parts of what makes this vehicle function and some of the iconic things associated with it is kind of your approach to these designs.
Yeah, we will capture the functions as a priority, but then this is also important that when you see the model, you know this is that car, not something else, and this is also part of the when we create a model to make sure we will capture it the best way, shaping wise, of course, as well. And yeah, for instance, of course, with the partner, we couldn't do as we want a random car. Of course, it had to be that one. It had to look like that one. So yeah. But once we have the functions and we know it's gonna work and fit, and it's been built many times, so then you know that there's it's the most optimal way you can create them and implement them, and it's quite satisfying, because also thinking like the kids or anyone who's gonna build a model will also learn how function will work. Probably a representation similar to the reality, then you learn how engine piston works inside, steering, suspension, or this connects to the shaft under the chassis, and then creating the look, of course, of the car with that, yeah.
Right. No, that makes sense. And another question that a lot of fans had was about the design of the bottom of the car. So the bottom of the car is not completely solid with pieces, and a lot of people wondered why there were those gaps underneath there. So if you can explain kind of some of the design process behind that, then.
Yeah, we're trying to capture the authenticity of the car, the chassis as well, the functions, and we have also a way of doing in LEGO Technic as well to create our model is to combine frames and beams and connector that will bring a very light structure, and you don't want the model to be too heavy and too bulky. So we're trying to really simplify as much as we can to have the I'd say like the structure that will work for the model, and also yeah, so it's going to be the right element in the right spot, and that will then create the best out of it for the chassis, and then you can implement the functions, and it's not overwhelmed with beams and blocks there that will prevent the functions to run smoothly, and also makes the model a bit lighter and easier to play with. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Or...
No, I think that explains kind of the process for that and why you guys ended up going with that design. So that makes sense. Yeah, lighter design, and you're trying to work with the Technic system that you guys have in place there. Go ahead.
No, in a sense, it's our DNA is not to have a die cast like closed everywhere. There will still be gaps, of course. It's not going to be a perfect slick surface on the body parts or on the chassis. It's the same. If you can make it as light as possible, and this is also why it's quite cool that we have recently developed this new frames that really allow us to have very light structure, and then that gives us more possibility to build and use those elements than somewhere else in the model to create more detail. And if you want to have that many details with that much detail also in the chassis, that would not work. That will be too heavy, and then this is why the model will not work as well, I would say. So simplification where we can is important to have more options later on the body part and then on the shapes, and to create a model with partnerships, or in that case the Ferrari. There's we want to put more authenticity in the look as well, so it's important we have the right element. So if there was no partnership, there will be probably less detail brought into some of the paneling and the way it's made. And sometimes to create specific shapes, detail on the model, it requires a bit more build that will maybe not do the same way if it was without the authenticity of the partnership. So that will be requiring a lot more build inside that then takes some weight and some space. So as I said before, it's also finding the right balance to have the best build at the end and the best opportunity for the shapes and functions to be implemented. That's why there's simplification where we can to have lighter structure, and that's quite cool that in LEGO Technic we can do that with those big beams and frames and building in 3 dimensions from the beginning. I think that really makes it the true Technic model. Yeah.
Related to that, with the Technic system and the parts that are available in Technic, I saw another common question online was related to the color of the Technic pins in the set and the decision to use blue versus other colors of pins and how you decide that. So what was your approach with that decision?
Yeah, it's a good question, because this is something we will not be able to really change. We are challenged, of course, with that, but the reason why we have these colors is a color code, and this is to make sure that when you build, you will do less mistakes, and we want to have the best building experience for everyone. And for some it will be obvious, but for others it will be much easier with this code. So we have colors that we cannot change, and we have to play around with that. And sometimes it also forces us also to rethink the way we build the model, because we don't want to use the blue pin there or the red. And each of these connectors will have the blue, the black, that have some frictions. The lighter color, like the light gray or sand color, there's no frictions, and they also have a functions. And that also teaches the kid that if I take that color, I know it's going to give friction to when I build something, and if I take this one, I know there's less friction. And it either also helps you to create functions, but also to do less mistakes when you build the model. And therefore we cannot change that. It's a color code that we have within LEGO, and there's a limitation with that, of course, when you build a model, that you need to keep that in mind. And sometimes it's a bit of a fight with yourself and your model when you try to don't have that spot somewhere, but it will happen, and it's part of the look of a LEGO set as well now, I would say.
Right. So it's really to help with that design process. As someone sitting down building the set, they can follow what's going along with the set, because it is hard, especially with Technic sets. Speaking from experience, it's very easy to mess up. And with Technic, if you put a pin or something in the wrong spot, it's 50 steps later, and all of a sudden you realize that you've got to take a bunch of stuff off. So there's a lot of ramifications if you mess up a couple pins with the Technic set.
Can be frustrating. I agree. It's hard to break, right? So you cannot just break it.
Right.
You have to take everything apart one by one.
No, so that's very understandable.
No, we're trying to bring this as much as we can to really simplify the build, making sure we have less mistake being made when someone build a model. And so either if you're a kid or if you've never built with LEGO Technic before, it doesn't matter what age you are, but it's always like we're trying to give different approach to when you go in the assortment. If you want to try to build a LEGO Technic set, either you go with the size of the model, the complexity will vary then, or you go, or it's like this with this, this color codes that we have. We're trying to say here there's it's a bit easier because of the red color, but if it was a darker color, that would be also more limiting, because we don't want to have too many dark elements in one set. and therefore in that case it was also maybe easier in that sense that we could use some similar elements in the same color that we will normally not do. Actually, this is maybe I'm wrong on this one, but it's always like maybe a beam that is maybe one length. You don't want to use the one that is next to it and the next length in the same color. You will jump one. Same for the cross sections or other elements that would be similar. And we're trying to avoid that because we know you could easily pick the wrong element in the volume. So this also will be part of the challenge that we are facing when we have to design a set. I had some, but I forgot it.
That's fine.
Yeah, on the bags. Oh yeah, maybe there would be also separated bags. Could be also separated boxes with different bags in the boxes, depending on the complexity. We will always try to make everything we can to have the best building experience, and it's not like simple, but simplification. So to make sure that this is like you will do less mistakes. Yeah.
No, and I can definitely say we appreciate the work that you guys do, making the
Thank
build
you.
experience easier because, yeah, it's definitely frustrating if you mess up something and then have to go back and change a lot later. But I did want to get to
Definitely.
question from Milan here in the live chat. So he asked, was there a point in the design process where you really struggled? If so, where was that? So as you guys were working on this kit, was there any one point that you got to and really had to figure out a solution to part to use or anything like that as the design process went along?
No, I cannot find something really particular challenging. I think there was overall that project was a good challenge itself from the complexity of the car, the curves, the organic shapes. But I think, like I said before, Lars made a fantastic work, I think, on recreating the car and implementing the functions as well. I think maybe I can touch upon on the livery of the car, so the sponsors and all the graphics and the colors. That was very challenging as well because there's a lot in how to place them, how to have them in the right place without sacrificing the shape of the car. But yeah, basically it's for me it's an overall. I think it was Lars making the right shapes and then making sure we have the livery that works together. Yeah. Thank you, Ben. Good question.
Yes, exactly. And you've been very generous with your time here, so I don't want to keep you too much longer. But before we end, I did want to mention a really cool contest that LEGO had run so we can get your thoughts on some of these projects here. And this was through the LEGO Ideas platform. LEGO actually ran a contest to design a Ferrari poster using this kit. And some of these posters are super cool. So we wanted to run through the 3 or 4 top ones here and get your thoughts on these. So what were your thoughts as you saw these kind of designs come in and as you've looked over these now? What do you think about these posters?
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. I've not seen all of them. I've heard about it, but I didn't know about that competition until 1 day ago. So I can say it's really cool. The outcome, the 3 selected poster, I think really captures what they were trying to do. So that's really cool.
I love the racing themes on these. I think are neat. You definitely.
Second winner. Okay, that's the first. Okay. Oh no, runner-up winner. Okay, yeah.
I think there's the grand prize winner.
Oh
Right?
yeah. No, yeah. Remember. Sorry. Yeah, this is really cool. Yeah, I was not involved into that contest, so it's fresh to me. It's nice to see that. It's really cool. I like the way that the element just fly off the vehicle or goes in and start to build itself. So I think it's the right choice for the grand prize winner, I would say. Yeah.
I love how some of these captured such a nice sense of motion with the way that they like that last one we were just looking at with pieces moving, and then this with the green and red and white colors there.
You can feel the speed and the race, and it's very artistic as well. It's quite cool. Pop art printing also, okay.
This one here has kind of a classic feel to it to me, almost like a throwback to some of the older Technic sets that LEGO has produced over the years.
Yeah, I can feel that too. Yeah, it's quite cool. Maybe I would add more graphical aspect also into the car as well. I can see there's already smokes, but it's a bit small. I cannot see too well, but Yeah, it's really cool.
But yeah, big shout out to all the people
I should
and
have tried
fans
that
who
too.
design these posters, and I think it's really neat to see fans take a Lego kit like that and then turn it into kind of a different art form and do something else with it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, because I think from what they say, they normally will do a competition rebuilding some sets, and this time they changed the format to a poster. So I think that's quite nice to do, and quite unique as well approach to integrating a Lego model as well.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me. Final question today. Have you been able to sit in the real car that the kit is based on? Have you been able to even drive it yourself? Because that seems like that would just be kind of a dream come true when you're working on one of these vehicles.
No, unfortunately, it's way too small. Cannot sit in there yet, but not even in the real. Maybe Lars, I need to ask him because I know before the lockdown he managed to have a visit of the factory, I think, and then the design team, so they could see the car. But then it was the only time they could see the car, and then it was all closed down. So yeah, but I'm not sure if they could sit in the car and drive it, or maybe they didn't tell us. Probably they will keep it secret.
They took a little field trip without you.
I'm gonna run some investigation on Monday then. Yeah.
There you go. Ask around the office a little bit, but hopefully one day you'll be able to get inside the real thing. But until then, thank you so much for your work on this model. Thank you for coming and answering questions today and helping shed some more
Anytime.
light on the design process. I appreciate it.
And thanks for having me here today and then running that. And thanks to all the fans and all the questions always been asked today. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Thank you to everyone who took the time to ask questions beforehand and in the live chat. We always appreciate it, and enjoy your Lego builds. If you're able to get your hands on this kit in the future, I'm sure it'll be a great build. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching.